You kidding me, right? My mouth is watering, I can't even speak. Hold on. Holy mackerel. Hello, it's Janello. In this episode, we're making dulce de leche out of a can of condensed milk, but there's a twist. We're making maple dulce de leche. We'll get into it. I'll explain who this guy is and where I got this can, but first, let's talk about condensed milk. So what is condensed milk? Well, let's find out. Hey Siri, what is condensed milk?
Condensed milk is cow's milk from which water has been removed. It is most often found with sugar added, in the form of sweetened condensed milk.
It's basically milk that's been reduced and the water's been evaporated out of it. What it makes for is a super, super thick, creamy, and because they add sweetener, sweet paste almost. From condensed milk, what we're gonna basically do is heat that over a bunch of hours, turns into dulce de leche, because in essence, inside of this can, it's caramelizing. We're gonna do that, like I said, in controlled heat with this sous vide device that's behind me, and we're gonna leave it in there for 18 hours. We're gonna have plenty of time to talk about who this guy is and where I got this can of maple condensed milk. First, let's bag this up and get it into the bath. So with some time to kill, let's talk about who the guy on the can is and where I got it from in the first place. His name is Martin Picard, or Martin Picard if you're French Canadian, and that's where he's from, specifically Montreal. He's been referred to as a genius chef. He's been referred to also as feral, which I can totally see. When he gets excited about stuff, he really gets excited and almost a little bit rabid feeling, which, you know, that's cool by me. You get excited about food, I get excited about food. I've been to his restaurants a bunch of times. He has two of them in Montreal, Uppbeat de cochon, which is just a crazy gluttony of everything from pork fat to goose fat or fattened up livers. I mean, there's foie gras everywhere in this restaurant.
Foie gras, foie gras, foie gras, foie gras.
But super, super delicious. You really gotta go ready to eat and almost die. So where did I get this can? It was at his second restaurant, the Sugar Shack. That's just outside of Montreal, a little bit north, about an hour, hour and a half. For those of you that don't know, Canada, and specifically Quebec, has a lot of sugar shacks where they refine the maple syrup that they have on the land. So basically, you'll have a bunch of maple trees and you'll tap them and you'll run this sort of extraction system. And then once you get that raw maple syrup out of the trees, you need a place to sort of refine it into the different levels of maple syrup. And if you've ever been to Canada or anywhere that's serious about maple syrup, you know that there's different levels of maple syrup, and the darker it gets, the more expensive it gets because it takes longer to refine. The Sugar Shack is the place where they traditionally do that refinement. And so it's just a shack in the middle of the maple forest that boils a lot of the water out of the sap, and therefore you wind up with different levels of amber maple syrup. Martin's Sugar Shack is a little bit different. It's an entire house. It's probably not really the Sugar Shack that he has out back, which is the system that I just explained. It's, in essence, a restaurant. It was a couple years ago. We were with our friends who live in Montreal, and they scored a table at this Sugar Shack. And so we took the drive up on a snowy night. And as we pulled into this Sugar Shack, it was just the middle of nowhere, but then there were cars everywhere and people reveling, and we walk into this place and it's just long tables of just multiple parties sitting at these long tables, kind of smushed together, although you kind of eat separately, but just like, almost like a beer hall it looked like. We sit down, I think we're getting 1 or 2 courses. We wind up with like 4 or 5 courses. I can't even explain to you what hit the table. Let me just show you.
Maple crust ham. The crust is made of white sugar and maple sugar. White wine, and
Alright, so that looks like it's main course. That's craziness. In that thermos is something that we pour on the pork.
This is a smoked cod, so we made a bechamel with some Martin Picard, and it's a mushroom bechamel. And then you have a classic
As we're coming through our last course, heading into dessert, I was asked by the waitress if I wanted a sugar shot, which I had no idea what this was, but apparently it's a tube connected to alcohol and maple syrup at the same time. And you kind of do it like a beer bong, but it's a test tube of maple syrup on a hose that goes into your mouth. I mean, it was kind of an amazing end cap to an incredible meal, but I was so full of both beautiful fatty meats, sugary desserts, and a bunch of alcohol, of course, that this idea of doing a shot of maple syrup at the end just seemed like the thing you needed to do.
1, 2, 3.
That was a ludicrous amount of food. I think we're redlining on sugar in the bloodstream.
So it was after that meal that I wandered into the area where the bathroom was, and while I was there, I realized that they sold a whole bunch of condensed milk with the maple syrup from the Sugar Shack in it. I brought a little bit of a souvenir, if you will, back to the States. And because I love Dulce de Leche so much, I was like, what better thing to do with his maple condensed milk but to turn it into Dulce de Leche. And in about 17 and a half hours, we'll get to taste it. Okay, there we go. All right, let's get into it. I put it in the bag because I didn't know what would happen to the metal itself. Here we go, kind of moment of truth. I wish I had an overhead cam. I don't have an overhead cam. Look, that's just how it's gonna be. Oh, goodness, my God. Oh my God, just the smell that's coming off of this. I discovered Dulce de Leche 30 years ago. This smells like the richness of that Dulce de Leche that I had in Argentina. Take a look at this. Look at that caramel color, which is ultimately what's happening, right? The heat is caramelizing the milk. And because there's a low sugars in there, that can happen at 185 degrees at a sustained temperature. Super sweet, but sort of that complex, rich goodness that Dulce de Leche has. And if you don't know Dulce de Leche, think of like an incredibly rich chocolate that you've had. It's similar in the sort of the complexity of it. Anyway, enough with the fancy words and like that. Let's get into this. Oh my God. I want to swim in it or something. I can't wait anymore. You kidding me, right? I mean, that's incredible. Not only is this excellent Dulce de Leche, but the maple syrup totally comes through. So it's this perfect mix of maple syrup, what you love about maple syrup, and this creamy, decadent, complex, condensed milk madness in the Dulce de Leche. Wow. I mean, it's doubly sweet. Yeah, we're not wasting that spoonful. As far as this taste test goes, this is a success. So you can go to the store, get yourself a can of condensed milk, and turn it into Dulce de Leche with a few hours of simmering. Now, because I have this beautiful Dulce de Leche, I gotta figure out what to do with it. And I gotta tell you, I'm thinking ice cream. That's a whole other video, but I do love myself some Dulce de Leche ice cream. So look for that in an upcoming video. I gotta contemplate whether or not I actually wanna go for that. And maybe there's a taste test in that too, because there's a bunch of Dulce de Leche ice creams on the market that I totally love. Leave me a comment if you have other ideas on what I should do with it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.